Welcome to ACFIM Talks, yet again another edition. Today, the 20th of May, 2022. A very good morning to everybody out there. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are tuning in from and catching us up on this show, ACFIM Talks, our weekly talk show every Friday, and we discuss the things that concern us in the realm of governance, especially electoral democracy. It's proudly brought to you by Alliance for Finance Monitoring, your political finance watchdog. And today with me, I have two distinguished guests that I'll be introducing in a short while. But before we start, as usual, I encourage everybody there who is on site, who wants to be getting these notifications, to subscribe to our YouTube channel, ACFIM. We are also live on all our social media platforms on Twitter, at ACFIM UG, on Facebook, ACFIM, and on our YouTube page, ACFIM Uganda. You'll be able to catch us there and also be able to get the notifications and also be part of the conversations that we usually have around this time every Friday. My name is Felix, your usual moderator and host for today's show. And it's good to have two gentlemen again. We are guilty of the gender. Unfortunately, we couldn't mobilize a lady, but we are well represented. With me, I have two distinguished guests. One is an engineer, quite interesting. Another one is a youth. Before I introduce them, probably, I think let me take this time to first lay a foundation on why we are here and help anybody out there who is tuning in and wondering what is it we're discussing about the OMORO by-elections and what are the scenes so far, so that you can come on board and be within context of the conversation. Now, for anybody out there who is just who has just arrived to this part of the country or who is just following the news, Uganda is yet again engrossed in another by-election, and you remember March, towards the end of March, we lost the Speaker of Parliament. We continue to mourn. May his soul rest in peace. Honorable Jacob Olanya, Right Honorable Jacob Olanya, passed on 20th of March. He was battling cancer, and then he was at the time of this demise, he was occupying this parliamentary seat for OMORO County. And since then the seat fell vacant, and he had been in that position for over a decade, I think since 2001 until 2022. And by the time he passed on, he was the Speaker of Parliament. So then the seat fell vacant, and we are in the process of filling that seat. And we now have at least officially 6 candidates that are vying for that position. 4 of those candidates are flag bearers for political parties, and 2 of them are running on independent tickets. Just run you through who is contesting. We have Andrew Olanya, who is the son to the deceased, the flag bearer for NRM. NRM is the National Resistance Movement. It's the party, the incumbent party in power. Another candidate is Mr. Simon Tolit Akecha, who is standing on the National Unity Platform ticket. We also have Oscar Chiza of Alliance for National Transformation Ant. We also have Mr. Justin Odong Obia, who is standing on the ticket of FDC. FDC's Forum for Democratic Change. Then the independents, we have Walter Onen running as an independent. We also have Odonga Terrace also running as an independent. So officially the campaigns kicked off this week. They are running until 24th of this month. So we have 4 days left to the end of the campaigns. We go to the polls on the 26th of May 2022. And as we speak now, I don't know, probably the panelists will be able to share with us. We are expecting the president to be in OMORO to canvass for the NRM flag bearer. According to the timeline I have, it should be 20th of, which is today, Friday. It should be in OMORO canvassing for the flag bearer of NRM. So we are now discussing what are the spinners, what are the spin-offs, what is happening, what's shaping up in the OMORO race. With me, I have engineer Olanya Tonny. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Nile Media Group. It's a media company based in Gulu City. And he's also a seasoned politician and investigative political analyst. And he's also a strategic thinker on issues around political human interest stories that shape narrative and public debate. In the governance of Uganda, you are most welcome, Engineer Olanya Tonny.
Thank you so much, moderator. As I've been introduced, I'm Engineer Olanya Tonny, and I'm happy to be part of this panel to especially discuss the deeper angles of the OMORO by-elections, that perhaps certain areas are being left out. But of course, I hope to discuss and also bring on the table a number of issues and the underlying talking points, major talking points of the OMORO by-election that are currently ongoing. And I would say I'm glad and happy to be part of this discussion. Thank you.
The pleasure is ours. Thank you for being part of this discussion and joining ACFIM Talks. Our other participant is James Opito, who is serving as the executive director at Gulu NGO Forum, and is a social and cultural anthropologist, and a strong advocate for young people, and done a lot of work around civil society dialogues on national reconciliation, and has a lot of interest around youth empowerment. And we shall see how that comes through, whether the youth are really participating in this process. Very good to have you, James Opito. You're most welcome to ACFIM Talks.
Yes, thank you, Felix and viewers. I'm very happy to join you today. And I hope that when we enter into the gist of the matter, we will be able to discuss the intersecting issues regarding the OMORO by-election. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here on this platform. Thank you so much.
You are welcome, and thank you so much for honoring our invitation. Okay, let's get started. You can catch us. We are live on our social media platforms. You can send in your questions, your clarifications, your contributions to the discussion. But let me get started. And I'm going to start with you, Engineer Olanya Tonny. First of all, it's quite interesting to find an engineer who is equally political in nature. It's a unique mix. But from where you are, your standpoint, give us a lowdown of what's happening so far in this by-election. We are in the heat of the campaigns. What is happening? What are the standout points so far?
Thank you once again. Just like I clearly stated earlier on, OMORO district is a district that is in the western part of Acholi, or West Acholi, as many people refer to call it, and it has a very complex political dynamics that plays with it. Normally, the politics of OMORO is dictated or planned or perhaps arranged and choreographed in Gulu. So the major talking points or the major players and the major planners of the OMORO by-election are always people based in Gulu. They simply go to execute the roles or perhaps the strategies they would have come up with. That is one other interesting point you may need to note, that the points where, or the camps, the pitch where the pitching camps are always in Gulu. One of the things that I clearly noted in the OMORO by-election is the use of money that has come in very handy. The use of money is quite strong. And of course, the media, both mainstream and digital media platforms, have reported cases of bribery, cases of being bought off, which of course I would try to be specific and note a few. Of course, there are also offices in this government that have been of course pinpointed on these allegations of voter bribery. Of course, there are still allegations, but of course others are having glaring public, because now these are things that you can't. The most interesting situation with the political narratives here is you bring it and leave it to the public court. I mean, it's the public court to deal with it. As the media, you can report about it and leave it as allegations for now, because you would have other engagements to deal with. As each and every day goes by, there are new stories, so you may not have the entire capacity to investigate to logical conclusions. So some of them you investigate and leave it to the public court to deal with it. So one of the things that came out very glaringly is the issue of the FDC candidate, the FDC flag bearer for that matter, because he wasn't yet a candidate. The FDC flag bearer, Mr. Wani Dick, we learned from our sources that the gentleman was nominated by the FDC to carry the flag. And then the day to nomination, in the morning, we get information that the gentleman has been kidnapped. From sources within the FDC, when we followed, we learned about this guy's kidnap. The gentleman was allegedly driven to Kamdini, and a lot of other controversial statements kept on coming through. But of course, as media, what we found out was money exchanged hands. Some sources say allegedly between 150 million to 300 million. Some highly placed sources talk about 700 million plus, of course, accruing to balances that were supposed to be paid. And of course, there was offices that were being implicated in these situations. Offices that were clearly being indicated is the office of the Speaker of Parliament, which is being implicated in these kind of scenarios of trying to manipulate the FDC flag bearer, Mr. Wani Dixon. But also, most notably, from our sources, we also learned of one name that came very strikingly in the OMORO by-election, especially on the issue of the FDC candidate, the flag bearer for that matter. That is the name of a priest who is based in OMORO, a Reverend Father. I will get the name right. The Reverend Father Willie is Reverend Father Willie. His name came out very boldly on a number of issues, especially because they say he was seen. He was the last person who was spotted with the FDC flag bearer the evening before. And we learned that the transactions for the money took place at the priest's home in OMORO. So that is one other element that was very strikingly, and a matter that the members of the press clearly discussed severally. Of course, another talking point that would be of much interest is the angle of much money being seen from the surface and not being reflected in the economy of OMORO. I have interacted with my team on ground, and I've been getting updates from my team on ground. And among the things they say are that the locals are complaining that we see very many cars driving in OMORO, very many VIPs coming in through OMORO, but they don't see the financial or the economic benefits that clearly stands practically on ground. What do I mean? Basically, there is repatriation of cash. Cash comes in from other districts. Let's say Gulu, where the politics is being planned from, comes in, they only see the cars going back, meaning there's money coming in and there's money going back as it comes. Okay, those are things that the locals would, of course, in this election, you would expect at least the major political players to inject, to my understanding, not less than 50 billion in this OMORO by-election. Okay, NRM alone as a party, I don't think they've spent less than 5 billion in this so far. Because each and every day, you not expect the party to spend less than 50 million, at least because you're running series of rallies in a very short span, which of course the Electoral Commission gave them only 9 days for official campaigns. So the issue of money that the locals are not feeling, I mean, the locals would expect that money would come. They say money is coming, but money is going back. I mean, you don't really see something that remains with them. So that's a complaint that the locals have, of course, brought in on board. Of course, that comes in with the attitude and the mindset that this public politics of Uganda has come up with, the commercialization of politics. It is clear cut. People want a share because people know that's the time they can eat something, and it's coupled with the bad economic situations. The prices of items, the basic commodities, are very high. So you'd expect the locals to use this very opportune time at least to get something off the grid so that they can benefit from. And of course, if you go into the other angle of the narratives of using money, we've learned also that yesterday, 7 of the people who nominated the other 3 candidates from the other 3 major political parties that are in the race, excluding the NRM, that is FDC, ANT, and NUP. 7 of their nominees, people who nominated them, were arrested. First of all, it started as a joke. We saw one former contestant who is Odon Damasco, a gentleman by the name Damasco, who was also implicated sometime back in a scandalous mineral issue. He was the former speaker of OMORO district. We learned that the gentleman wrote a letter to the Electoral Commission complaining that the other people, the 7 people, should be brought to the tribunal of the Electoral Commission of reasons that he clearly stated there, which was a formal process. Then later on, we learned of their arrests. So there's seemingly a choreographed plan that we will use someone to write a letter. Then later on, we'll pick the people who are being who are now being written, who are being put as people to respond to those allegations that are being put up by the said complainant in this case. The said complainant in this case who wrote to the Electoral Commission is Damascus Odongo, who in this case is complaining about the 7 people having said that the 7 people forged their signatories to nominate the other candidates of NUP, who is Akeja, then the candidate of FDC, the candidate of ANT. We learned they were picked and taken to the Electoral Commission office. As far as we are concerned, the Electoral Commission doesn't have the rights to arrest people. The Electoral Commission also in its mandate does not have the rights to in any way effect arrest. It is only the police that does so. But when we learned that a complaint was filed to them, the best the Electoral Commission is supposed to do, if in this case they're supposed to act free, fair, and be prejudicial enough, they were supposed to write formal summons to those 7 persons and they appear before their tribunal. And in this case, why would you take a tribunal from by-election being done in OMORO and take it up to Kampala and then make those people appear up to in Kampala? So it doesn't add up. Then the question goes back to the public court, because the media basically opens up as the mirror of society. We definitely tell the stories that it may not sound nice to the ears of very many people in the power, but that is what is in the human interest story that we would be telling here. And some of these stories are also being sidelined because certain people may not feel comfortable enough or bold enough to tell the stories. So that is what is ongoing. We are yet to understand as to why they've been picked and taken to Electoral Commission. We're yet to understand why all these scenarios are happening off the grid. But of course, I can authoritatively confirm that we spoke to the person running the person running the campaigns for FDC, that's Honorable Kin PP, who clearly told us 3 of his people were picked. 3 of those people are people who had appended their signatures to confirm the nomination of their candidate. So we also tried to find out more from him, and this is according to Kin PP. He says, Kin PP is the Member of Parliament in Chua. He says that these people who are picked from their sources, first of all, they had started by, which is something I'll discuss next, they started by writing to their candidate. So the people who are picked from the FDC camp were people who had nominated the candidate. Now they are from the PP. Okay, he says those people are being tried, that are being grilled by the Electoral Commission in accordance with what they're being grilled by the Electoral Commission. Then they're being told to withdraw their signatures. They're being coerced to accept a monetary bribe, sort of. They're being requested, so they withdraw their signatures and bring allegations that their signatures were forged. So it's a whole glaring situation that comes in at a point when the NRM candidate, Ojok Andrew Olanya, has questions to his paper, where the ANT candidate has also filed a formal complaint, suggesting that and arguing that the person that was nominated is not the person who is supposed to be contesting, because there are differences in the name. The names are Ojok Andrew Olanya, that is the name that the Electoral Commission has nominated, but the academic documents and the national identification of the gentleman is showing Ojok Andrew O. It is not showing Ojok Andrew Olanya. So those are 2 differences that the ANT candidate is arguing, and is arguing that the Electoral Commission must denominate or deregister the NRM candidate, which is a very glaring situation. And of course, he has also said boldly that if his petition is not heard prima facie or in time, is taking a legal step perhaps to secure a court injunction that will bar the NRM candidate, or perhaps put the electoral process to a halt as of now, as they sought the candidature of the NRM candidate, who, according to him, and of course according to the law, has disparity within the name. And then maybe the other thing that we need to understand are the major talking points, especially from the ruling party. The ruling party so far has assembled, to my knowledge, over 4 camps that are running the campaigns. Of course, the first camp is the camp that is being manned by the Right Honorable Richard Oduor, who is based in Gulu, and of course is manning the Secretariat camp. Then of course the second camp that, of course all these camps, all these major parallel structures that are running the campaigns of this NRM candidate are having financial implications. Okay, they're having financial implications. There is the cabinet team that has ministers who keep coming in through and using official government vehicles, of course, to campaign. In this question, you would ask, why can't a minister drive his private car? Because you're coming for a private party campaign. If the NRM, in this case, is supposed to be brought to book, then they should be using party property, not government or public property in this case. So the other third camp that is in play is the camp that is going to be coming through in the OMORO by-election in the person of the president. President Museveni, we have learned that was supposed to come here on 20th, but there were changes that were made and is coming here on Tuesday, that is 22nd May. And of course, that all comes in with financial implications. You as people who manage, as ACFIM, as an association, as an organization that tries to manage or monitor use of money in politics, you're very much aware how much money is spent on a presidential facade or presidential convoy. So, and then of course, his presence also will come with a lot of financial implications in the politics of OMORO. Okay, so that is the other angle that you need to. Of course, then the last camp that is also being talked about much preferably in this by-election is the camp of the Speaker of Parliament, that is the Right Honorable Anita Mong. That camp is also a camp that we've been told is also splashing in money from the NRM camp in the OMORO by-election. Then also to cut the border across, you would look into the other major players of this by-election. That is the NUP party. NUP as a party now is the largest opposition party. Just yesterday, we learned that in their account, they got 1.3 billion from Electoral Commission as part of the money that they are legally mandated to receive from Electoral Commission for their representation in Parliament. So NUP is 1.3 billion rich coming into this by-election. And of course, each and every month, they get close to $1 billion from government, in the government coffers, for their leadership as the alternative government. So you would think they would come in also with a strong financial muscle, with a strong financial power to battle it out with the NRM. And we've been reliably informed that the new principal, Robert Chagulanyi, will be coming in OMORO by-election to canvass for votes for his candidate, Honorable Tolid Simon Akeja, who was previously a member of parliament as well. We've been told he's pitching camp in OMORO by-elections for close to 3 days. So as the NUB made their announcements and they're making, of course, campaigns and structures moving through, we've also learned that yesterday through the police leadership in the northern region, as well, especially from the spokesperson, that the police and the security in OMORO has taken charge, and they have set up a lot of patrol points, and most notably among them is the major roadblocks. They're putting roadblocks in OMORO. When you go there, you have to identify yourself. You have to tell people OMORO is basically under that kind of security surveillance. Of course, not letting alone the angle of anxiety and threats, intimidation, as many people have reported to the media, and of course the major talking points of security deployment. We are looking at, as the media, the angle of and the possibility of a breakout of political violence or use of violence by the forces or confrontation by the different political divides. I want to bring to your attention and the attention of everyone following this show that on the nomination day of the NUP candidate, when he was passing through Lelogi sub-county, Lelogi town center, the NUP team was confronted by the NRM team when they were having their processions. And one of the things that shocked many of us we saw police basically standing and doing nothing as Nup was being confronted by NRM supporters. That was one of the notable things. So the angle of violence in the by-election, we see it very glaringly coming through very strongly. And this is backed by records of confrontation, where you see these two party principles, the NUP party principal, Robert Chagulanyi, and NRM party principal, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. We saw that happening in Arua by-election, whereby the NRM lost to the then People Power leadership. And we saw the violence we saw the court cases that came through with the Arua 33. There were loss of life. There was destruction of property. And so as the media, we would want a free and fair process, of course, because even in the media, we have a say that there is no story bigger than your life. We've seen internationally journalists losing their life covering this violent situation. So as the media, as people who analyze the deep state, as people who analyze what is happening in society and speak about it, we see a lot of anxiety and build up towards violence, because just by the sense that police is already putting roadblocks, you already know that the police is actually setting ground for this violence. Because to me, and to a person like me who analyzes politics, I think most of this electoral violence are actually brought in by the security operatives or the security personnel. Because why in this sense would you put in patrol roadblocks? Okay, to me actually it plays to the disadvantage of the NRM candidate and a lot many other things, because the locals have, Northern Uganda is basically trying to recover from over 20. As I conclude, Northern Uganda is trying to recover from over 20 years of insurgency, 2 decades of war, and there's trauma in the community. When they see gun, they relate it to violence. When they see gun, they relate it to death. So it's a politically charged constituency that needs to be taken care of properly by the security. Of course, let alone the deployment, which is necessary, but putting roadblocks, I don't think it is necessary as of now. So that is what I've so far looked into, and of course I'll look forward to sharing more as time comes by. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. That's a very, very detailed lowdown of what's happening. Anybody out there, I'm seeing Henry Moose making a comment that he fears this seems to be a repeat of what happened in Kayunga. Looks like OMORO, the stage is safe. Let me come to you, my colleague. Let me come to you. You've heard clearly what the engineer has been sharing, a very detailed lowdown. I want to know here from where you are, where are the youths in all these games? Where? And secondly, a lot of the allegations that are coming through in terms of how money seems to be now already making rounds, although not yet felt within the region. And usually we've known the youths to be at the tail end, either receiving this money or in the middle of getting this money. Where are the youths in all this? And what do you see as well? Do you concur with what's happening and all these allegations that are taking place?
Yeah, Felix and viewers, I want to first of all appreciate what my colleague Olanya Lenge has said. He has virtually spoken about all the issues surrounding these elections, honestly, especially those issues that are in the media for now. And then maybe before I answer your question, I want to say what as observers from outside and how we look at the events unfolding, what I as a person, I would suspect certain situations to happen, and I begin to build some scenarios. And for me, the scenarios, I want to explain about 2 scenarios I try to build looking at the events that are already unfolding. First, the contestation of the name issue builds the scenario that there could be a possibility of an annulment should there be a fault. But of course, for now, we don't want to say it because you have to wait for the legal recourse to take its chance. And I think the ultimatum, which I would say the ANT candidate gave to the EC, is to give a response to him by today, by end of today. That is the 20th Friday. Now, so beyond today, we would maybe expect to see other reactions happening. And that reaction happening could be an injunction or something else. And in that scenario, let's say a possibility of an annulment of happens, and then of the candidature of the NRM candidate happens. That would now mean the biggest effort would be to ensure that the question of the invalid signatures of the other nominating parties should happen, so that there should be an opportunity of an annulment of the entire election, so that we have a fresh nomination process. So we need to see all these dimensions, but all this is only in anticipation that the fact of name incorrectness actually happens. Or maybe we do the other scenario is where maybe we look at shifting goalpost, where the rules are shifted in such a way that maybe we go to court. Maybe the issues first is silence, and the name issue, the O actually begins to be insinuated as Olanya. And so EC allows the candidate to run with the names registered, and then they wait for petitions in the future. And of course, in this, you may also expect that there could be other interpretation, whether O actually means Olanya or O is, in fact, its own sole name. But so looking at that scenario, I see possibilities of building facts around false and facts around legitimizing names. Now, when I look at the youth, I want to say that the youth in northern Uganda are in deploring state for now. You know that the most recent statistics of the Uganda Bureau of Statistics indicated that northern Uganda is actually the poorest in the country now, with the statistics, a poverty indices of 67.7%. The poverty level is 67.7%. Now you can imagine the biggest wealth people now have is the land itself, because even the production, the production capacity of the land, you have the agricultural products, but if you are not amalgamated in groups, it means that the products you produce from actually faces no value. And so the poverty index here is not likely to change. And if we are looking at now the situation in OMORO for now, we all know what is happening in the country, especially the skyrocketing prices of all goods and services, and people are struggling to meet the cost of basically everything. And I think the most vivid thing now that we are seeing, even movement alone, you require the cost of border is very high because fuel prices are high in Gulu. If you go to Total or Shell or other, these traditionally renowned petrol stations, a petrol is going at 5,600, and then diesel is around 5,000 something, close to 5,600 as well. It is very markedly closed, that diesel and petrol are so close, and this has been translated into the cost of transportation, the cost of goods, virtually the cost of everything. Now, I want to draw it down to a common man who beats chapati. This is traditionally now youth occupied, the preserve of young people. For now, the chapati dealers, a carton of chapati powder, the flour, would go for around 50,000, but now is around 80,000. And this means also it's so many who are question themselves whether you now roll a chapati of 500 or you roll a chapati of 1,000. And this is the kind of pressure that we should expect to see built in young people. And now when it's an electioneering period like this, you expect that a young person is most inclined to move towards what will make the pocket better. And when we look at the deployment of the different political parties in the OMORO by-election, I think that I want to buy in the submission of my brother or engineer Olanya. The NRM candidate seem to have more camps than the other political parties. I didn't in the events that have so far unfolded. I haven't seen particularly a better camp for the other parties other than the NRM, but we are seeing like sporadic movements here and there to try and seek participation of the different parties. But we are also beginning to see that political parties are now moving, having the door campaign seems not to be working so much. So the garden campaign now is working because people are now struggling to make ends meet. People are moving in the gardens, people are moving into markets and all that. So where will you find, will you find somebody home really? Maybe you'll find somebody in the market, in the garden, by the roadside. Campaigns are moving everywhere, even in the gardens, even by the roadside, even in marketplaces. And I want to reiterate again here my fear we see about the security situation. This whole idea of putting checkpoints on the roads and all that probably is to ensure that the district is on siege, and so there should be no influence from other other districts. For example, you would expect that the other political party should be looking for logistics, should be looking for other people who can supply them certain things that should allow the campaign movements to go on well. And if we have very strict checks on people here and there, then it will frustrate that process. And I think that one will also frustrate the finances, and ultimately it might also impact into the election outcome. But young people.
Just a minute, James. As you make your other point, I want you to, because you touched the point which I want you to drive home. Help me understand when you talk about the garden campaign, roadside campaign, marketplace campaign. What are the messages that are being fronted as campaign messages by the different camps? And also, which camp is foot forward? And where should we expect the contest to be? Is it between NUP and NRM, or is it between FDC and NRM? Because this also ties into what Engineer Olanya said, that if the FDC candidate initially was kidnapped and they transacted as alleged, is FDC seen as a threat? Which is the biggest NRM challenger in this race?
Okay, I think it is too early to tell. Because we need to also learn from the past. What is the context in OMORO? For me, I would say OMORO is a swing district. Just like in the United States, they could talk about swing states. I think OMORO is a swing district in Uganda. In 2000, 2001, the OMORO constituency was won by Simon Tolit. When the former Speaker of Parliament, who is now fallen, actually lost the constituency 2001, 2006. He lost the constituency Tolit, and Simon Tolit was an FDC candidate at that time. Now we are looking at him coming from a different political front. So it's quite difficult to tell whether it will be the FDC or the NUP or the ANT candidate. But I would think that the biggest battle will be lying around the NUP and the FDC candidates. Now, I think the messages are clear. For now, actually, first of all, there's a context. Whenever it's a political question surrounding the events of death, people tend to downplay it a bit. And I think there is a serious buy-in for now for those who understood the implication of Olanya's death. and they reflect on the cultural context, they think that it is not ideal to have like overt campaigns and all that, because it's not a reflection of the cultural values that we should have held for quite some time, to give a proper time for mourning and having soul searching and reflection on the demise of Olanya. Yeah, but unfortunately, the election discourse brings this to question, and also says the other, aspect of the cultural aspect needs to be reviewed. And so people are in a constant quest on reviewing their own, conducts, and questioning whether it's the right time to do what. And so probably also it now gives the opportunity that, yes, well, while you do not have the opportunity for large gatherings, yes, spread the message by the roadside or through the marketplaces and all that, and the garden. And I think the other party that has, had all the monies to be able to do this is the NRM party. And I think if you've listened over the national television and other channels, you could have already heard there are talks about roads, talks about services, talks about completing the legacy of the fallen speaker, and talks about bringing new growth and development initiatives. But I think that the other talk about questions of corruption that within the district, we may most likely hear it from the other political parties, not the NRM. And I think maybe the other point I want to say is that
in summary, because I want us to go for a break. In summary,
yes, the NRM party should be struggling to retain the power of incumbency, because the rallying behind Olanya's son is more or less claiming that there is still this element of incumbency in place. While we're having a by-election, we still have the connotation of incumbency, because it would be kind of an elongation of the NRM dominance in the electoral process. But everything is too early to call, so we still have to watch this space.
All right. I've just been informed by my producer that let's not break. We should let's continue to the last mile. Let me come to you, Engineer Olanya. Very great insights. I want to find out, because from what you've just painted, there's so much security that has been deployed in the district, and then you've just described what is happening. Those who did nominate the three candidates belonging to ANT FDC, the other parties, that is ANT FDC, were apparently summoned by the Electoral Commission. And I want to find out, with all this that is happening, I've also read somewhere some allegations. I think the RDC is getting involved in partisan politics, campaigning on behalf of, I think, NRM candidate. I want to know, is the Electoral Commission in charge of this process? Who is in charge of this process? That is one of the questions I want to throw out to you. But also another question that I want to throw to you is around these different camps that you talked about, the camp of Honorable Richard Todong, the camp of the cabinet team, the president who is coming on 22nd, then Anita Mong. Can you put a figure on almost what's the word around how much the NRM is looking at here, investing in terms of winning this race? I think you're muted.
Okay, am I clear now?
Yeah,
okay.
Please proceed.
Let me start with the talking point on the RDC's involvement in the campaigns. The RDCs are civil servants. At least that is known by law. That is a matter that can be even challenged in the courts of law. It's a matter that was being brought up in the media. I remember the FDC candidates and the other candidates of the other political parties raised that complaint as a joint opposition front, that the RDC is openly campaigning for the NRM candidate, which is not allowed by law. The RDC in question is called Unyuk Andrew, a gentleman I know very well as a cadre and a mobilizer of the NRM party. So he's taken it upon himself to openly and widely campaign for the NRM candidate, which to me, I believe, within the law, you would ask yourself questions as such. What time will the RDC find to monitor government programs if he's busy campaigning for a party candidate? That is a question of what roles do the RDCs play. If in this case, then you'd ask yourself the relevance of the position of the resident district commissioners. They're entirely supposed to represent the president in the delegation capacity in the districts, and of course monitor and follow up every government projects. When we hear about the Myoga projects not moving on well, then you see RDCs who are supposed to be following these processes and these projects, because this involves public funds, then it becomes a menace in society. Of course, we raise these concerns as media. We also publish these stories, and you would find that some of them, especially this the RDC question, would take it as pride that is being covered by the media for perhaps showing support to his party. So for him, he takes it as credit to his side. So that is the question of morality in this country. Do we really have the morality or the moral authority as a country, or as members of this country, as citizens, to do things the right way? Are systems really working? So that is the other thing. Then that clearly takes me to the issue of institutions. Is the Electoral Commission in charge? I will tell you for a fact, we do not have properly functioning institutions in this country. We do not have properly functioning institutions in this country. I'll tell you, at least authoritatively, that the EC is not in charge of this election. Why? There's a question of summoning the other FDC, NUP, and ANT people who, the designates, okay? The people who made signatures, they appended their signatures to the nomination of those other three candidates. Why summon them? Why not summon them? Because someone complained. When the complainant wrote to EC, instead of EC writing formal summons to them, we only had that police picked them. So you wonder which authority the EC now has to send police to pick people who are supposed to be summoned. Because in this case, these are members, these are stakeholders, major and important stakeholders in this electoral process. So to me, entirely, Electoral Commission is not in charge of this election. At least that I can say authoritatively. It remains a question of them to prove a point, to show us that yes, they still trust and believe in the Electoral Commission. No, at some point, there were jokes that were being made about the Electoral Commission, that among the electoral reforms that were being advocated for in this country, the only thing that changed about the Electoral Commission was their name. They only changed the name to an Independent Electoral Commission. The other things remain the same. So that is a matter that we leave it to the public to sort out. Then you talked, my colleague talked about the door-to-door campaign, the garden-to-garden campaign. That is intense. That brings me to the time that Electoral Commission, the law mandates for these campaigns. First of all, I do not understand why this by-election, they gave it only 9 days of campaign. That is a question that we would send to the Electoral Commission. What yardstick did they use to narrow down this election to replace the fallen speaker to 9 days? I don't think we have COVID as such in the previous election. So there was basically no ground under which they would simply announce a campaign period as short as it is, that now restrains the candidates to campaign beyond even the regulated time. A case in point is the FDC candidate who was summoned to go to Kampala. You can imagine, you are campaigning, they're summoning you to go to Kampala to respond to issues by the EC. Yet, Biabakama and his team could step down in Gulu and set up a temporary, or set up in OMORO, set up a desk. They even have a formal office. Why do they again need to summon candidates all the way to Kampala? Yet these candidates are supposed to be campaigning each and every day. They have schedules of campaigns, perhaps running about 10, 15 rallies in a day. Okay. You're supposed to cover not less than 3 sub-counties. I mean, you can't break that down in 9 days. So the candidates are doing campaigns in what we call locally as Wango campaigns. The fireplace campaigns, the bonfire campaigns are also a very, very topical angle of campaign that's ongoing. So the EC is trying to single-handedly narrow down, and they're not trying to to challenge or summon every other, because all the candidates are doing this bonfire campaign, the Fire Plus campaign in the evenings. But I've only summoned the FDC candidate. We've not heard about the NRM candidate. We've not heard about the ANT candidate being summoned or the NUP candidate being summoned. That is now a question of morality on the EC side, a question of being in charge, a question of fairness, as we would expect from the Electoral Commission. Of course, as the media, as the public eye, ours is to ask the hard questions, which is what we try to bring to the attention of the public. Then you also said, you also asked the question of the youth involvement in this politics. The youth involvement in this politics is a mess. I'll tell you, the young people in this country, about now 80%, that's a critical mass. That's a big number. So in the regards to this by-election, at least I am happy as a young person who rides by a theme of for the youth, by the youth. We always have that theme as me and as colleagues, that if there's a young person involved in something, and I feel a young person should, in this case, support. At least I'm happy that there are like about 2-3 candidates who are young people. The NRM candidate is equally a young person, he's 32 years old. The ANT candidate is equally young, he's in his early 30s. So that is a good step. Even the FDC candidate, likewise, is also a young person. So, and I'm happy that these are young people who have taken up leadership roles and to offer themselves for leadership.
All right.
The question of names that my brother raised, the question of name is a clear-cut case. You know, in the law, if I am called Olanya Tonny, it is different from being called Olanya T. That's a clear-cut difference. That is why even the president himself was forced to swear a deed poll. Even Mogisha Muntu did a deed poll in the previous election. Robert Chagulanyi did a deed poll. At least it allowed us to get to know the president's other name, that is Tibo Ahura. That name had never surfaced. But because of the issue of deed poll, the law is clear-cut. That is a yes or no situation in the law. You're either on the no side or you're on the wrong side. So the ANT candidate seems to be having a good case of perhaps even causing nullification of the NRM candidature. Of course, that is a question of the legality of the nomination process. It will also challenge us to find out if the Electoral Commission is in charge. We got information yesterday but one that they are in crisis meetings to see how to harmonize these grounds. Perhaps that's why my colleague Opito said that they're trying to even raise the concerns on the signatures of the nominees of the other candidates so they can buy time and see how to buy off and get off negotiation points that you leave my candidate, I leave your candidate, something like that. Of course, other provisions of being coerced are also brought in that case. Then maybe the last point I would raise is the issue. The last point I would raise is the issue of the OMORO by-election. What are the things that are being used as campaign lines? What are people talking about? Or what are the things that perhaps candidates are dwelling much on? Of course, OMORO by-election, OMORO is among the most, if not the most impoverished district in Acholi sub-region. OMORO district here is the poorest. People there are living in dire situation. That is the fact. Take it or leave it from me, it is the fact. We had the NRM Secretary General speak about people not to vote for the other candidates of the other political parties, saying they would not get services. The question would be, it has been under the belt of NRM for a number of years, and we've not seen any clear services to the people of OMORO. That would be a question that the NRM will have to tell the people or the voters in the electoral system of OMORO. The pledges made by government, the roads are not in good state. Remember, the speaker was also struggling on that same project of getting the roads tarmacked. We have the issue of the hospitals. OMORO is the district that is infested and badly affected by the nodding disease syndrome. Up to now, there's no clear-cut support from the government on the nodding disease that is affecting the people of OMORO. If you go down deep in the villages, you'd see children dying off, children wasting away, young children wasting away because of the nodding disease. And COVID alone was given a lot of attention without even giving attention to nodding disease, that government cannot invest in money to get researchers to do research, to find out exactly what is the cause. And perhaps we need to know what is happening with them, because up to now we don't know what is really causing that disease. And then, of course, the issue of hospitals and major other talking points. Of course, the other talking points are emotional talking points. The death of the fallen speaker. People would be asking questions. You don't know Of course, the opposition used it to their advantage. Remember, the father said the son, Jacob Olanya, was killed, was poisoned. So those are questions that will be brought. Are there questions that will be raised about the death of the speaker? That what killed him was, of course, the father said poison. Okay, the son told him it was poison. So that is a point, and that is a talking point that perhaps other forces or other players will, of course, the NRM will need to come and make it more clearer to the masses, and the opposition in this case will want to use it as a striking point of their campaign issues.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tony. We are coming to the end of this show. Slightly overshot. It was intentional. We started late. But as we come to a close, I think my other last question, and briefly, please attempt that question, James, is around what do you see so far is being spent on? What are candidates spending on in this period so far? Briefly, can you share?
Yeah, traditionally, it's in an election period like this is difficult to say exactly, because the ultimate spending tend to be on the last day, the last day. And maybe I wanted to correct also. I think the president's coming is not really targeting the 22nd. They are targeting the 24th. The 24th of that is Tuesday, and yes, on the last day of the election.
Yeah, that's
Now,
the eve.
I mean the last day of the campaigns. Yeah, so we will most likely see ultimate spending on that day or a day before that day. So looking at the 23rd and the 24th may be the day of the most wide-scale finance campaign spending that we have ever seen. And it will be difficult to say which item, because looking at the unfolding events and the economic situation, money may be changing hands more than any other item. And that question, the best way to answer is to try and target those days and see what happens.
All right. Thank you so much. We've come to the end of today's very interesting discussion. Now you have it, the scene so far, what's happening in the OMORO by-elections. I was joined with James Opito, who was giving us the insights. Also, I had engineer Olanya Tonny sharing the insights as a journalist, and it's been a very great, interesting discussion. Felix Kafuma has been a moderator. We'll be back here Friday. Probably then I hope I can have you back to share in real time what's happening at that point in time. Probably, I think I'm looking you in to see what will be happening at around that same time next week, and so that we can continue with the discussions. But thank you so much for making it part of this show for today, and I want to sign off from here till next week. Bye bye. Stay blessed. God bless.